Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining us. And welcome to the second day of the special edition of KnowTalks from the London Book Fair. A very good morning to you, Anoud, joining us from the United Arab Emirates. Before we start, let me begin with some housekeeping. So our dear audience, the session will be held fully in English. However, interpretation into Arabic is available. All you need to do is click at the globe interpretation button at the bottom of your screen and just choose Arabic if you wish to join us in Arabic. And please don't forget to put your questions in the Q&A box. So here we are with Anoud in a session about innovating the future, making ideas work. Anoud, you are the CEO of the Futurist Company, and you have a big background working in private and in the private and the public sector. And you are also a filmmaker and a producer. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and about your company?
First of all, Assalamu alaikum everyone, Ramadan Kareem, and I hope everyone is safe wherever you are joining us from, whether you're physically there or you're joining us virtually. My name is Anoud Al Hashmi. I'm an Emirati from United Arab Emirates, specifically half Dubai, half Abu Dhabi. And I started a company called the Futurist Company in 2020 after several entrepreneurial attempts that failed, luckily. And the Futurist Company is a result of trying to do something really good, but making it sustainable and consistent, trying to help people, trying to help the planet by creating business solutions for the future. We looked into a lot of research and reports, and we identified that some of the problems that we face and the challenges that we face today could have been avoided if we had a solution deployed 25 years ago. And that's where the Futurist Company started. Nevertheless, I'm here today, Anoud Al Hashmi, to talk about innovation and then the future. As a futurist myself, I was brought up in the UAE. I studied in MIT, Digital Transformation and Global MBA from University of Manchester. I went into different journeys of wanting to be a pilot, wanting to be a doctor, wanting to study biotechnology, all of that carved in a way who I am today. And this journey is what I'm so proud of, ups and downs. And I'm here to share some insights and information with you all. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Anoud. We look forward to hearing all your insights today. I would like to ask you, because you mentioned that you are an Emirati and half Dubai, half Abu Dhabi, half from Abu Dhabi. So I want to ask you, how do you think, like where you come from as an Emirati, how has it helped you achieve what you are today? You know, like with the visionary leadership in the UAE, and like the future looking planning, like in the UAE you plan for 50 years ahead. So how did that inspire you to be what you are and to start the Futurist Company?
I think I'd start with saying that we're very lucky being in the United Arab Emirates for different reasons. A 50 years old country to achieve what the UAE have achieved is almost a country with a Bible to avoid mistakes, do things faster, and do them big or go home. So the UAE has been always like this this vision and this practical, critical thinking approach of how to be number one and how to be the best, even though if we don't have the resources like others, or you're in a region that has a lot of conflict, and how to deal with crisis. And this living in the UAE, you kind of graduate, you live it, you breathe it. So you want to be part of it. You want to have the ambition. You want to be part of that, you know, like get on the wave and join the fun aspect of building something really great. And I think Dubai and the UAE is the essence of what taking a challenge and turning it into something really amazing. As a woman, we were always empowered in the UAE. My grandma had her own camels. She used to go on the camel to the desert. She used to be the head of the family. So Allah yarhamha, like women were empowered. We never had that. Did we have different waves of different approaches and mindset of conservative or modesty? Yeah, but it's like style, it changes, and the UAE is embracing 70% of women in higher education. Like most of the students in higher education are women. And even in workforce, women are very there. And 50% of our cabinet is women. So are we a developed country or what? I really don't really care what others would say, but I see that we're doing our own thing and we're just amazing at it. I'm so proud. Sorry, I'm very biased.
You should be, Anoud, and we really sense these values that you are talking about, and like all this great leadership, and really these values, like, and this gender equality, we sense it. We sense it everywhere in UAE, like especially being part of the Knowledge Project, which is a partnership between UNDP and the United Arab Emirates. So we really sense that. So you have to be proud of this. Let's begin into the topic of our session today. So I want to ask you, how important is innovation to be future facing? I read a bit about you, and I read like the term future facing a lot, and I loved it. So how important is innovation for this, but not only innovation, but other intangibles that are like knowledge sectors, such as ICT, also research and development, and innovation?
So let's start with the definition of innovation. I think it's an interesting to understand. So innovation is trying to do something differently with getting either the same or a better result. So you try to innovate an approach, maybe a supply chain progress, maybe development in identifying the demands in the consumer market. Maybe there's so many ways to find how you can change something and give something better as a return. To me, I think innovation is a result of using technology, but you can never have innovation without a human involvement. Why? Because as a human, even if you have the technology, but you don't know how to use it and how to implement it, you can't be innovative. To be innovative as a human being or as a business, that humans with the experience and the knowledge have to identify what can technology do, or change of process sometimes can be innovative, or how can be something tackled from a different point of view to make it innovative and have a progress. You can never have innovation if it fails. So it has to succeed to say it was innovative. Even if you change something, maybe looked and sounded cool and innovative, but the results was negative, you cannot call it innovative. It have to be positive results coming out of it. Now, innovation and the role it plays in the way that we think as humans is very important. I love the word innovation because it actually emphasizes on the point that humans are required. Machine cannot take the job of a human because innovation cannot be done by a machine. AI can learn, but humans are doing the coding of the AI and identifying what it learns and how it learns it. So that's the beauty of innovation. This is why I like innovation so much.
I like the definition and how it requires human and how it needs to be successful to be called innovation. But I want to ask you, like, how can we ensure that innovation is sustainable? How that you ensure that this technology we are using is sustainable, and whose responsibility is it?
So sustainability and sustainable is, there's two ways to look at it. There is the sustainable of thinking environmentally sustainable, and there is sustainable that the business model is sustainable, where it's sustain itself. Successful business model have to sustain itself, makes its own money to invest it back in the business, to pay everything, sustainable. Now, how innovation can be, so let me identify, are we talking about innovation for sustainably environmental or having a sustainable or a sustained business model?
No, the first one, like but not only environmentally, but like more if you can think a bit about the sustainable development goals.
Okay, the SDGs, one of my favorites. So how can we or innovation or use innovation approach to identify? First, you need to identify. So first thing, the most important thing, being honest and authentic as an individual, as a business, as an organization, as a government, on the actual figures and KPIs of now. Without having the accurate information, you can never be sustainable, because you know, and I know, SDGs are built on KPIs. To have a KPI, you need to be able to measure between A and B. When you measure between A and B, you can identify the progress. So if you are not authentic and honest with yourself, and you just want to give yourself some stars and tick some boxes and say you have been following the SDGs, be my guest, but you will not really actually have proper progress. So identifying, first of all, the current facts, numbers, data, even a bit if you have something from the past, so you actually know the impact and what is the factors that actually changed it. And then the second thing is being very authentic and honest with your approach, what you can achieve, how much investment you can put, because everything in sustainability environmentally has an ROI. So the return of investment is there, but you need the right team, the experts to help you achieve it. Keep in mind, we never really had a department that's a sustainability department before. It's such a new thing. So don't expect everyone is an expert, but expect that you train your people or hire someone who knows about it. Nevertheless, to be able to achieve it, you will need a team. You will need to plug in an SME or plug in an organization that can help you achieve it. Whether it's using renewable energy, whether it's changing the business model when it comes to waste management, turning waste into energy, even the social aspect of educating your own employees. You know, putting that effort to educate your own employees is so important, because it plays a social impact. These employees, they go home, they educate their children, they change the perception of their families. All of that is very important and very crucial. So that is another aspect to look into. And then working alongside other businesses, I think sustainability is the key word for sustainability is collaborations, because that's when you see companies working with companies, governments working with companies, big organizations with the small and medium enterprises. The future of it is all about collaborations. So this is like how I would sum it up, but innovation definitely plays a huge role, because we all have been following a certain path or a certain supply chain or a certain business model or production line, etc. And innovation comes and changes certain aspects and add that sustainability aspect, makes it more environmental, makes it more sustainable, makes it more affordable, makes it more and like human aspect to it. So that's what it really does, in my point of view.
Thank you, Anoud. Great answer and really comprehensive. And I totally agree with you on the collaboration and innovation part. Like they really go together hand in hand. And I invite you and our dear audience to check our recently published report that's called the Future of Knowledge Foresight Report, where we study the readiness of countries to face future risks. And how do we study that? We study it based on real-time data, but how? We study it through the transformative capacities of countries. And we have identified the two principal transformative capacities, which are innovation and collaboration. So like just like you were saying, but like what really hinders innovation? What do you think like are the challenges, and what kind of enabling environment do we need to have for innovation to grow?
The first thing that will come to my mind is one of the first point I mentioned is authenticity and honesty. So if you don't really have that, and you're not honest with yourself, everything else is propaganda. You're trying to show off. You're trying to have a press release about some achievement. But once you're honest with yourself, you really want to make a difference. So that is the first most crucial thing. Secondly, is the government supporting the businesses and working, the private and the public sector need to work together. You have one of them responsible for all the governance policies and regulations. That plays a huge role. And not only plays a role, but it is the foundation of the future. If you think of it, just putting some small regulations and policies, you would have a mindset, a perception of a generation that thinks totally different. If the school system just put that in their education, that you are not allowed to X, Y, and Z, and you tell them exactly what they're not supposed to do, you'll have generations coming out that knows exactly the problem and avoid it. And that is our responsibility now. And we can't wait for the next generation to take care of it. We can't blame the previous ones, although I'll keep my own personal opinion for myself. But what I'm trying to say here is we can't wait for the next generation to take care of it. It is our responsibility now. And the CEOs and the decision makers, it is your responsibility to make that.
Definitely. I totally agree with you. You are talking here about like a different mindset, a total cultural change. Like we have seen it starting, but at an incremental pace. However, we need like really bold actions, bold decisions, a really a substantial change. And like we see it in companies, for example, where like in the past, there used to be a department called CSR, the corporate social responsibility. But now this has transitioned. Like no, now we see like the social part and the sustainability and the environment all across all across the sectors of companies. So we are starting to see that.
Yes,
But
definitely. I want to add one thing. Sorry, I don't want to
sure,
interrupt you. Add
no,
something.
sure.
And this is maybe it's the learning of Sheikh Mohammed and how Sheikh Mohammed thinks. And the Middle East is 50%, more than 50% is youth. To me, immediately when you say something like that, it's like music to my ears. That means the adaptability and the agility of changing their mindset is way faster. If you work on this generation from an education point of view, you will have in 30 years a different place. The region can be thriving on knowing that we are capable, we can do, and we are able to do it. And that's what we have here in the UAE. Maybe like when you hear about 100 years strategy to invest Arab investment in building the space sector, you understand it is made for the Middle East. It's made for us to think that we will go back like we used to be one day, leading in astrology and math and science. So definitely the region is very capable, and we have the agility because of that youth percentage.
Great. But like, can you elaborate more? Can you tell me like what makes an ideal innovation culture at the macro and micro levels? Like you can tell me from a UAE perspective, and if you want from a Dubai perspective, if you want.
I worked in different countries, and that gave me a bit of a holistic overview, not detailed. I can't say detailed. When you don't live there for at least 5 years, you can't say you know everything. But when you deal in business, you can actually understand some aspects. The beauty of what the UAE have achieved and learned from is how government plays a huge role in creating the future of the country, and how leadership is the first role model. These two things are very crucial and very important. Secondly, having the right people in the right position. You have an expert in X in the position of X ministry. You don't have someone from X ministry to Y ministry to D ministry because they're shifting and shuffling around. And that's something I saw not globally only, regionally, globally, it happens a lot. Having not the right person does not help the country at all. Might be capable from progress and business and so many aspects, but to have the right person who understands a certain industry will add a lot of value in building the strategy for it. They might have the right team, but that person have to have the knowledge as well because they're the decision makers. So this is, I think, why it's very crucial from demographic point of view. If you have more than 50% of the population youth and you have the right leadership, you're creating the generations of like these people who want to achieve more and they have a different mindset.
Definitely. You mentioned ministries and leadership, which made me remember like a couple of weeks ago, you had the World Government Summit in Dubai. And in one of the sessions, I think it was in the opening, in the ministerial session, there was Her Excellency Mariam Al-Mehri, the Minister of Climate Change and Environment. And she was speaking about this next generation farming and how UAE is creating this model to produce, for example, fruits in climate resilient systems, like where they are producing strawberries. She mentioned strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, all along the year. How supportive is the government, and like, do you have like partnerships, for example, with the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, especially as you work in the agri-tech sector?
So one of our projects is agri-tech, Gaia. Gaia is an agri-tech solution using AI to create the 21st century farming or farmer, because we need to change the perception of fallah. The new fallah is a cool fallah. That's something I believe in. And when I hear you just talking about Her Excellency Mariam Al-Namhiri, a visionary, a woman with a lot to give and a lot to have done already, and she have achieved a lot. We worked closely with Dubai SME. We worked with the ministry, whether if it's data, exchange, sharing our progress and reports, identifying how we can support each other, because we totally believe that ecosystem is something that will thrive together. We can't thrive without the traditional farming, and the traditional farming requires us, so we learn from each other and we cover each other backs. So for example, in the summer, you barely can plant anything here, but because of agri-tech and closed, controlled environments, you can actually grow almost the things during the summer, which is the hottest weather. And that is a huge progress. We're using a lot of technology here. One of the aspects that we are investing in is in Gaia, is how Gaia can be an agri-tech solution that is sustainable, that is following ESG, that is considering ESG in its aspects. Because most of the agri-tech solutions, especially in a culture in the GCC or MENA, will require to use electricity for cooling and temperature control, which means that there is a higher carbon footprint. Nevertheless, they have also higher labor, a number of labors, which make the OPEX also expensive. Therefore, when you go see organic, it's very expensive. Some agri-techs are expensive and varieties are not there. So is there any development? Yes, the UAE is importing 80% of its food and fresh produce, but there is definitely a strategy that's put in place for a carbon neutral strategy by 2050. Also, other than that, so many initiatives by the government and semi-governments, not to only develop the agri-tech and agriculture scene, but to invest back by the government is providing traditional farmers with technology to help them thrive through climate change and the change in the temperatures.
That's great to hear. You always need like the support of the government and a really good enabling environment to be able to succeed and develop. So you mentioned the carbon footprint. What's your take on green innovation in a time where climate change is really, it's hitting hard?
It has so many names, there's so many names for it. You can say green innovation, then you'll have someone saying most of the green innovations are greenwashing, and then you'll have someone saying, but it's almost like desert tech. So many names. But what we're trying to say is, let's create real solutions for real existing problems and avoid using these solutions to greenwash problems and numbers and stats. I think the approach now is with what's happening in the region recently, and I can see it in the last 5 years, is this collaboration mindset. The number of women and men I met in sustainability sector who want to work and collaborate together is playing a huge role. That when it comes to green innovation, because now the innovation is becoming between two partners. Each of us have a different solution, but when we integrate our both solutions, we have even a better solution. That is something I have noticed recently very, very well happening. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's my intake about it.
It does. Thank you. Like you mentioned about the role of women, about women in leadership positions. Like you mentioned that in the UAE, you never had this problem. For example, the cabinet is 50-50, and like everywhere you can see women in leadership roles. However, like if you can, let's speak for other countries, for maybe for the Arab states region and for all the world. How do you think, like, what can be done to attract women to achieve their aspirations and be on the front line and take leadership positions?
I think first of all, I would highlight the fact that women were not always 50% of the cabinet, but in the last 15 years, we saw definitely a huge increase of number of women in the cabinet. And when I said women are always, because we're always empowered, we never really felt like women cannot do something. But with time, women were able to get into different fields that women were not in before, like pilots, and boxers and AI experts and inventors and Formula One drivers, and they're like almost everywhere. And I'm a person that believes women and men are two partners in everything. We cannot do anything without the men, our fathers, our brothers, and women. So I'm a believer in inclusion, and there is no differentiation in it, because there are certain things women cannot do and certain things men cannot do. Nevertheless, working together is very important. The men need to empower the women, knowing the fact that women are responsible for the family. When you have a woman that reads, a woman that have knowledge, you will have a generation, you'll have children, you'll have a family that have ambition, that have knowledge, that wants to build, that is actually a positive contributor in the society. As much as men, fathers have a huge role, there is nothing that can beat the trust relationship between a mother and her kids. They will trust anything. Eat the apple, you will become taller. They will eat it. Drink this. There is that trust relationship. So the information that a mother, a parent, both of them can give to their children is very important. This is why women role is important. And talking to the region, even the world, there is women who are not getting their basic rights. So any place where women don't get their rights, where they are not respected, or they are not an important contributor in the society, I would question their progress in the future.
Definitely, and here also the role of like the connection and the relationship between women and the environment, like is really important. Like they share many attributes. So I will start.
Think about it for a second. You know, they call the planet mother, the giving mother Earth, Gaia, right?
Yes.
And woman by nature, she's giving and a multitasker and adds life to everywhere they go. So it's a beautiful thing. You know, it needs to be kind of embraced and celebrated whenever is possible.
True. I'll start taking some questions from the audience. We have many. So they are asking, how do you effectively prototype striking the right balance between speed, resources deployed, and learning?
Good question. There is no right way, my friend. There is no right way, but I'm going to give you an honest, practical, and critical thinking approach to it. So you have a problem. You want to try to find a solution for a problem. This is what I do for a living, finding solution for problems. You will look at the sources and factors that makes that problem exist. What makes it worse? What makes it less? I'll focus on what makes it less first. Small steps. Increase what makes it less first. That's your first solution, with a roadmap on developing a better solution to eliminate the problem if possible. Now, prototyping is very important. So definitely you need a mentor, not only to develop your mindset from a business point of view, but to understand how you can develop your thinking, how to approach a problem. The mentor will also help you with contacts. You need to have your research department and R&D. If not a department, a person, someone who's an expert in the field. You don't have to be the expert, but if you're the expert, you need someone like an engineer who can help you develop the prototype. So you know what I mean. So if you're developing something with machinery, you need an engineer. If you're needing something with coding, you need a different type of engineering. So that you need someone who's an expert who can help you develop it. And then when you have it, you need three things to do. Understand, is it a want or a need? How much they want it or need it? And then test it until it works. And every time you test it, you find a problem, fix it, move on. Don't let the first failure, 10th failure, maybe 60th failure let you down. Continue going, because literally that is the process to have something great. If greatness is really easy, everyone will be great. So don't expect the journey to be easy. That's my answer.
Thank you. And this brings us back to our beginning, where you introduced yourself, where you said that thankfully you have failed in other attempts, in other startups. So this is what led you here. This is part of the journey. I'm
so happy with my failures. A lot of people, they ask me, so when you failed, how did you feel? I was like, failure is like my best friend. If there is a best friend that it doesn't harm you, because you created that failure, so you harmed yourself. Failure never harm you. But that failure is that continuous reminder in the back of your head, don't do that again. You did it before, it did not work. Or do it differently, because last time you did it, it did not, it was like this. It is your best friend. So failure is never an enemy. Sorry, I like to jump in with these comments.
Oh, please do. You mentioned the mentorship, and I know you are a mentor, but what's your advice for young entrepreneurs, or they don't have to be young, for entrepreneur or for innovators, like for having a mentor, how they can find the right mentor?
So it's a very good question. I think having the right mentor is not easy, but it's doable. So I would say first look at your surrounding and find the person that you say, I want to be like him. Like he's doing amazing, he's doing great, or she's doing great. My mentor was a female. And I say was because we became friends and I reached her level. And she came to me one day and she said, Anoud, you're ready. You don't need me as a mentor. You need to find someone better. That was like graduating from mentor number one, graduation, you know? It was like that. Literally, you will never have one mentor. You will have several mentors. Think always about what you really want to achieve. What did your mentor achieve? And personality and synergy as well, very important. Like to have someone that can criticize you, you accept it. And you can tell them a very honest feedback and they should accept it. And then you'll become friends and then you'll find another mentor after that and another mentor. So you'll have like a group of ex-mentors, best friends kind of thing.
How many mentors have you had so far?
4.
4. Okay.
4 in 5 years.
In 5 years.
The
Okay.
average is like once, at least 1.2 at least a year.
Yeah. Wow. That's good. And do you think that you will reach a time where you will not need the mentor anymore?
I think it's impossible. Those who claim they know everything are fools. Will never, ever, I don't think ever I will be able to say I know everything. Because that's the only time you say I don't need a mentor anymore. I think I would love to keep learning and teach and give back, to mentor someone else who was in my place. You know what I mean? And keep that cycle happening. And it's almost like populating people that have the capability of doing certain things and are able to achieve something. It's exquisite when you think about it, because if every one of us going to mentor another 5, think about the number in a couple of years. I think it's magnificent. But yeah, definitely would always need a mentor. And let's say I couldn't reach the mentor I wanted and it was very hard, I'll read their books or something, you know, just to keep learning from them.
And I like this idea of circular mentorship. Like you give, you take. So it's really an exchange.
Recycling.
Yeah. So sustainable mentorship.
I know, right?
Another question from the audience. How do you build ideas that are scalable, diminishing marginal unit of input for each marginal unit of output? So yes, how do you make ideas that are scalable?
I think the new business model, scalability is very important, because scalability is economy of scale, and by economy of scale, you're making more profit. Anything that is not scalable is something that's going to get stuck. So scalability is a very important word. So good question. How to make sure something is scalable? I think your R&D, you need to know how many people need it, how many people want it, and how you can reach them, and the supply chain, and you can logistically be there, or it's just an online service. So it's subscription based. The essence, the secret is in the details of the details. Ask your friends, start with your family, then do a survey, send it to your friends, get answers, look into it, and test it. Test your business. If someone, I'm not saying share your idea with them, but once you have a prototype or you have something, physically ask people to try it and tell you their feedback. But scalability is very important. So if there is no scalability, be careful, watch out.
Watch out. Okay. How can we encourage innovation in our organizations, especially MSMEs?
Innovation. I think the heart of SMEs is innovation. SMEs is innovation walking around. Because all these people in an SME is the people who want to think outside of the box. They want to create something very fast. They want to go from 0 to 100 in 3 seconds. They have the mentality of innovation. Now, how to identify innovation? Like I said, it's humans that identify innovation, and they find the tools that make the innovation happen. I would definitely, if someone doesn't have any career experience, go get some. Even if you work as an intern, the more you learn about how business is managed, the better you'll be able to effectively and efficiently manage one. In SME, being innovative is looking at your competition, benchmark, understand their supply chain, understand your supply chain, and be very honest. What they're better than you with, and what you're better with them. Like instead, like what they are better on you, and what you're better on them, and benchmark these things. So your USPs. look into it, benchmark yourself with others, and identify the opportunity. I never think there is, I think competition is a ridiculous word nowadays. I think there's so many mouths to feed. There's so many people to cater to. And the future is all about collaboration. So even your competition can be your partner. So always be open-minded to ideas. You might have something that's going to be worth a lot for someone else, or vice versa.
Great. How important is diversity to innovation, and how does one innovate across different industries in a fast-evolving future landscape? It's also a question from the audience.
Okay, again, the first one is how
important is diversity to innovation?
Okay, great.
Yes.
Let's answer this one. So
yes,
diversity is very important if you want to go global. If you're doing something for a niche market, and if Asyut, I'm going to do only for Asyut, I'm going to do only for Cairo, I need to understand Cairo mentality. But if I want that project to go outside from Cairo to the world, I need to have a diverse team, at least with diverse backgrounds. So in my team, we have 8 different nationalities, different backgrounds, because that plays not only a huge role into how they think, but what the information and what demographics they bring with them from their experience in their life. All of that adds a lot of value. So I always used to say I'm an internationalist because I really believe in it. The more you have a diverse team surrounding, you'll have a global look into things. You'll look at things from a different angle. So it is very important. And innovation, think about it, you're creating a solution. So if your solution is catering for humanity, understanding the temperature and politics in X and how the bureaucracy in Y and how things work, and all of this adds value. So definitely very important, but not a must. Like I told you, if it's only for Cairo, if you have Cairo people, you're just starting, it's okay. It's going to come later on.
Okay. How can you pitch an innovation? Like, how do you know this is a good idea? Does intuition play a role?
How do I pitch it, or how do I find an idea? Because if I pitch it, it's an elevator pitch. So I learned the basics of an elevator pitch, and I'll identify my story. Very important to know your story, your elevator pitch. What are you providing? Who you're providing it to? All of that. But if you're trying to find a good idea, then it is all about, like you're developing an elevator pitch, the information you're receiving from someone, it's their elevator pitch. Their elevator pitch might not be good because they don't know how to do an elevator pitch, but that doesn't mean their idea is not good. So always have an open mind and open ear to what people are saying. It might be a great idea, but someone doesn't know how to present it. Sorry for the barking, guys.
No worries. We are about to reach the end of our KnowTalk today. I have one last question, like just to summarize. You have given tips for innovators here and there, but can you give me like tips for innovators, and especially for young innovators?
Young innovators.
Do that.
Good one. So young innovators, I would say your story is very important. Where you're coming from, don't be someone who you're not. Trust me, because that is something part of your DNA. And when it's part of your DNA, you understand it like no one else do. And that is where you can thrive. And you can never thrive alone. You always need the right group of people to thrive with you. So find the right people around you, find the right friends around you. It's very important.
It's about the community, the connections, the right entourage, if I may say. Thank you, Anoud, for this talk. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you did as well. Do you have any final words to say before we conclude?
I just don't want to bother you with the noise I have in the back, but thank you so much, Stephanie. It is such a pleasure to be here and speak to all of you. Please reach out. My social media is Anoud Al Hashmi on LinkedIn. The Futurist Company, the website is there if you need to know more information. And I look forward to interacting and inshallah collaborating with people from all around the world, especially the region. Thank you so much.
Inshallah. And we'll surely keep in touch. I'm speaking for myself and for the Knowledge Project. Thank you, Anoud, once again, and thank you, our dear audience. We meet again at 11 a.m. UK time, that is 2 p.m. UAE time, in a session live from the London Book Fair with Dr. Mike Bender, who will be revealing some tips and tricks for managing knowledge within growing international teams. Thank you so much.